But kind of beyond that, around January time, it kind of became clear that once again the hospitals were starting to fill up. They were having to open more intensive care wards and kind of critical care areas, and they started to realise that they would need some extra hands. So they put out the call for kind of medical student volunteers, and I pretty quickly signed up, and so I spent quite a lot of my kind of weekend evenings and nights over the January-February time working in the John Farman ICU in Addenbrooke's, and working with COVID patients here. In terms of how I made the decision, I don't think I really did. It was just I felt the need to. I think there's no other way to describe it really. I couldn't not do it. I knew going into it that there was always the risk, you know, if I get COVID, then is that going to be the end of my season? Am I going to pass it on to my friends? Am I going to pass it on to other members of the crew? Yeah, and then in terms of how they kind of sat together, it was pretty tricky because, you know, I would start a kind of a 12-hour shift at around 7 p.m. On a Friday night. So I'd work through to around 7 a.m. the next morning, get a couple hours sleep, and then it would be straight on the computer for kind of a virtual erg. I'd be having to, you know, after a couple hours sleep, go through my notes, you know, what were we working on last week, what are we working on this week, what are the technical changes that we need to make sure that when we come back to the water, we're ready for it. And then, you know, the erg would finish, I'd try get a nap, and it would be back off to the ICU a few hours later, yeah.
Did working on those COVID wards change your perspective at all?
It did. It was, in some ways it was quite challenging to going from such it sounds cliche, but a life and death environment to what is kind of essentially just a race. It was hard to kind of deal with that perspective, but I think it's more than just me, and it's more than just the crew. It's everyone that's come before us, everyone that's doing everything they can to make sure the race happens this year, and everyone that we hope is going to come after us as well. And hopefully all the people that watch this and think, wow, that looks cool, I want to give rowing a try, or it would be great if I applied to Cambridge or Oxford, you know, that's I think who we're really doing it for. But I think it almost doesn't matter where it is, it almost doesn't matter when it was just the fact that we're finally getting to race. For me and a lot of members of the crew, this is not just one season's race, this is 2 seasons race, and it means a massive amount just to be able to go and race another crew, really.
So obviously the course itself is actually much simpler, pretty much a straight line, 5 kilometers, pretty boring. I guess one challenge you could say is we could almost be complacent because it's just where I've learned to row. It's just what we do every day.
And without the bends here, it's still going to be a fight to get dominance early on and get to that early lead. However, it's going to be far more difficult to break another crew, and so it's going to be much more of a sort of a grind, minute by minute, kind of taking seats on the other crew. And yeah, it's going to be much more difficult, so it could be a pretty close one.
In Ely, and since it's a straight lane race, there aren't any twists and turns. You don't get sort of a bend advantage, so you can't really put in tactical pushes based off of that. But at the same time, it is it's a 1v1 race, and fundamentally it's just a case of being faster than the other crew. And in that sense, it shouldn't change all too much. Whilst I sort of take some degree of confidence from being here, being in Ely and racing in Ely, definitely don't want to let that confidence sort of lapse into overconfidence and think that you can walk away with it because it's home water. Definitely not. It's fundamentally it is a straight lane race, it's a straight course, and the fastest crew wins.
So much of it has been really uncertain for us. I think we've had loads of periods of good training on the water, and then been back in lockdown and training sort of on our own, isolated training. So it's been really variable. I think the one constant is the intent that we've all shown up to with each session, whether that's alone or with the rest of the team. So there have been lots of highs and lows and lots of sort of things that have been thrown at us, but I don't think that's steered us off course at all.
And how did it?
For us, we almost know every blade of grass, so it'll be nice to be rowing on our own home waters and hopefully defend that.